Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy 4th of July. And I see we have people here that are not part of our company. And I wanted just to try something different today. It's 4th of July, and we really want to start influencing and sharing more of the content that we share in the day-to-day of our company and how we, help and develop leaders. It's a beautiful San Diego day. And before everybody gets their day started for 4th of July, we want to be able to share some ideas that I believe can really make an impact, in people's lives. This is really important information. Again, my name is Carlos Salgado. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 13 years in the financial services industry. Started a company back in 2011 with a very close friend of mine. My background is military. I was in the Marine Corps for about 15 years. Served in many aspects in the military, working with people. And one of the biggest things I've always loved about working with people is this whole concept of leadership and identity. And, nothing has ever made more of an impact for me than leadership, and I'll tell you, everything rises and falls on leadership. Show me something successful and I'll show you something being run by a leader. Show me something successful and I'll show you something being run by a leader, whether it's a family, a business, a church, a Boy Scout group, a football team. Whatever successful is because there's leadership at work. And that's the purpose of this webinar, because in order for you to lift, your level of leadership, you're going to have to increase your influence. And that means you're going to have to increase your identity. There is nothing more important than that. So we want to share you with few strategies that I think would really make an impact for you, so you really understand just how important this stuff really is. Okay, and again, I want to ask you to go ahead and leave some remarks in the chat box, things that you feel can be better about this webinar. Maybe if it's, I want to give me honest criticism, because we're going to start doing more webinars for the public, and we want to share really quality content. So your time is valuable to us, so your input is necessary. So let us know what you like from this, what could be better towards the end. And I want to get done within an hour, because I know we got to get on with our holiday and go to barbecues and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started. This is a very popular training that, let me preface it. This is a really great training that a lot of our associates get a ton of value from. And so we wanted to just share it with you in hopes that it also is something that can be of value and use to you in your day-to-day life to help you get to the next level, whatever that may be. Okay. And I'm very confident that towards the end of it, you'll get some value from this. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's see here, right? Let's go to my entire screen. All right, so you should be able to see my screen here. And the title of this training is obviously called The Greatest Secret Ever by Tony Robbins. And it's one of the most powerful trainings I've ever been. I've been fortunate and blessed to go to all this guy's events, and I got to go for free. A connection I had in the military, and it was completely life-changing. And he shared this training in a very small room of about 300 people, and each of these people had paid $10,000 for a 3-day event to see this guy and go through his training. And I was fortunate to be there for free. And this was one of the greatest trainings I've ever received. So I want to share that with you, absolutely complimentary for you, so that you can take this information and do and apply it to your life and watch the ones it'll make. It's called The Greatest Secret Ever by Tony Robbins. So what we want to start off right off the bat is, what we spend a lot of time with the people in our company on a daily basis is we teach a lot on mindset. And that's something that I recommend to you, is that you really begin to grab a hold of your perspective to everything, right? Because everything is mindset. Isn't that true? I left this little quote there on the right. Isn't it true that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to what happens? That's it. There's a lot of things that happen in our day-to-day life that we have absolutely no control over. But how you react to those things that happen in your day-to-day life that you have no control over really says a lot about your identity. That's where I kind of look at people and see, do they have a high identity? And people, we all have challenges, right? Don't we all have challenges? Everybody, including myself. There's whether we have big, major challenges that we're dealing with in our life, or we have small, the day-to-day mundane stuff, right? We all have issues. If you don't have issues, you don't have a heartbeat. But no matter what's going on, you still have to find a way to win. No matter how you feel, you still have to get up, dress up, and show up, no matter what's going on. So that's something that we really want people to become really aware of. Is you obviously you can't control everything in your day-to-day life of what's going to happen to you, but you have absolute control of how you're going to react to it. And that's what we want to put into perspective right now is how do you react to things that happen to you? Are you overly emotional? Do you avoid confrontation? Do you avoid dealing with people in a way that you know is necessary for progress to be made? That's really what the purpose of this training is about, to really let you into that world so you begin to see yourself behaving with a different attitude and a different mindset so that you can achieve progress on whatever you're trying to do, whether it's personal or professional. I like that quote on the bottom, that it's not enough to know what to do, you must do what you know. Isn't that true? You know, I haven't been fortunate to meet a lot of academically gifted people through have many accolades and accomplishments in academia. And when they give you their business card, you know, they have letters coming out the end of their business card. You know, they got more letters than you could imagine. But when adversity hits, this is what I've learned about human nature. When adversity hits, most people, unfortunately, they crumble like a cracker. And so we know that in the information age, there's a lot of people know about a lot of stuff, but rarely do we do what we know. So if we already know what to do, and we know if we did this, we would get the results we want, then why don't we do what we already know how to do? That's going back to mindset. And that's something that amazes me about human nature. And I want to share that with you in hopes to kind of give you some perspective in terms of how you're behaving. You know, are you doing things that you know how to do that will yield you the results that you really want? Or are you doing things that you don't want to be doing and are giving you the results that you know you don't want, but you continue to repeat those behaviors and patterns and attitudes? Interesting when you really put it in perspective. So that's something we want to share with you. We have to really put that in perspective first so that change can begin to happen. So let's start off with leadership. What is leadership? And if you look at leadership simply, it's influence. What is your influence over another human being? Right? What is that? We all have influence over people. Now, some of us have very positive influence over people, and sometimes some of us have negative influence over people, or sometimes we're a little bit of both. One thing I've understood about negative people, and this is just my opinion, my own understanding, is for the most part, really negative people a lot of times don't know that they're really that negative. That's really fascinating when you think about it, is most negative people don't know they're negative, but they continue to behave that way. And they don't realize that they're repelling people, because we're either attracting or repelling at all times. And that's something I want to ask you. Do you feel that you attract people to you in a positive way? Or do you feel that you repel people? Right? Think about it. It's kind of it's a great way to check yourself. And one of the most powerful principles that I feel that you can learn from a guy named John Maxwell. And I recommend all John Maxwell books, by the way. He's a really great writer on the subject of leadership. He can really take you down the rabbit hole in terms of understanding the psychology of just human nature, in terms of how people respond to different types of people. And the law of the lid is one of the most profound examples of leadership. Now, I'll kind of have to explain this to you. I should have got a picture for this, but let me explain it to you. And if you just look at a linear, use from 1 to 10, if I were to ask you, on a level of 1 to 10, what is your influence over another human being on a positive scale? Meaning that from 1 to 10, how much influence do you have over someone else to be like, you know what? So-and-so mentioned me, I should do this, and I'm going to do it. What would you say you stand? And let's say you're a 5. So if you're a 5, and that's your level of influence, and you come across, say, an 8, 9, or 10, the truth is that a 5 cannot lead an 8. In a 1-minute conversation, that 8 will quickly recognize that you're a 5. Not in terms of your character. I'm talking in terms of your identity. And we have an epidemic in our society, and I hope you guys would agree with this, of low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-confidence. This is a big struggle in our world right now. You know, people were very victimized these days, you know, and we don't know how to take the power back. And a lot of that is just having a strong sense of self, right? Having high self-confidence, high identity people, high functioning people. They have high self-esteem. They have high self-confidence. They have high self-worth. They value themselves. They value their time. And we're not talking about arrogance or ego here. We're just talking about someone that, you know, they have a value on themselves, and they know that. They treat themselves well. And when you do that, you have a high identity. And when you have a high identity, by default, you're going to attract other people around you. You're going to collaborate with other people around you who also have a high identity. And don't you want to be working and collaborating with people on a basis that are very creative, they're inspiring, they have great work ethic, they're very committed to what it is that you're doing? Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. And so if you're struggling to get people to do what they need to do to take whether it's your company, the day-to-day work you do, to the next level, there's a good chance the reason that's not happening is because you have a low identity. And if you have a low identity, and let's say that you're on a scale of 0 to 10 and you're a 5, you can only realistically lead a 4, 3, or a 2. But if you want to be someone that's working with 8, 9s, and 10s, then you yourself are going to have to get yourself to a higher identity. Well, how do you do that? And there's 3 things to do that, what I want to share with you. The 3 things are this, right? Number 1 is the books you read. And I hated reading books, guys. You know, reading books for me was something that I did not like to do. The first time I picked up a book again was at the age of 25, after I've been out of high school for, God knows what, 7 years. I barely read maybe a few books in my whole academic life, and those were because I had to read those books. And I remember a mentor handed me a book called Think and Grow Rich, and that book changed my life. And from then, I could not put, I don't put a book down. I go through books like you wouldn't believe, because it does so much for my identity. To hear from thought leaders out there that are really putting some great content out there in terms of how to live a better quality life, and the aspects of leadership and personal development and personal growth. So books you read are one way to raise yourself from the lid. Number 2 is the meetings you attend. Is in the last 7 days, what meetings did you attend that really help you grow? Maybe you go to church. Maybe you're part of a women's networking event, right? Maybe you're part of a business, right? What meetings do you attend, and who are the people in those meetings that you're associated with that are taking your identity to another level? Hopefully you're around positive people that could stimulate your thinking and help you grow. And then the last version is the people you associate with. So the people you associate with have a dramatic effect on who you're becoming as a person. Okay, and if you hang around with 4 negative, broke, complaining, victimized people on a day-to-day basis, then chances are you're the 5th one. Ouch, I know, but it's the truth, because like attracts like. And this is why the law of the lid is so important. So if you want to raise yourself, it's like, Carlo, I want to go from a 5 to a 6, from a 6 to a 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. Then how do I do that? Again, those 3 things: the books you read, the meetings you attend, and the people that you're associated with. And by associations, I'm talking about the top 5 people that you take counsel from, that have influence on you, that are in your ear. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're the smartest person in your circle, maybe it's time to find a new circle. Okay, so that's a big one. And if you call yourself a leader, nobody's following you, well, you're probably only taking a walk, right? You know, so leadership is influence. People follow what they admire. People follow what they want to be like. And if you are trying to get people to do something that you feel is in the best interest of the greater good, but they're not doing it, there's a high chance that you're not someone that they want to emulate, right? And that might be your attitude, that might be your negativity, who knows? There's a variety of things. So this is why we want to put this in perspective, because I think in an ideal world, everybody wants to have a positive impact on people, right? But how do we go about doing that? Well, that's a great technique. That's a great strategy to really understand if you can grasp it. You know, leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And that's true, right? So a big part of your leadership is understanding emotional intelligence. And most people are unaware of where they stand emotionally, right? They struggle with emotions. You know, if you would look, man, just go on social media, turn on the news. I mean, we as a society, we are possessed by our emotions. And emotions are pretty much running and dictating your every move. And emotions are not such a bad thing if you understand them and you know how to control them. But if you're always not in control and you react emotionally to things, to everything, to every challenge, then there's a good chance you're not going to get anything done, because winning is strategic. And when you're too emotional, you're not rational. And when you're not rational, you can't really make progress because of the dramatization of just throwing too much emotions into something that could be fixed. So how do we go about doing that, right? Well, first things first is you have to be able to clear the challenges in your life in a non-emotional way. That's what good leaders do. They clear the debris, right, in a non-emotional way. So think about challenges that you dealt with, and it's like, you know what, I probably could have responded a lot differently than I did. You know, I shouldn't have snapped back when that person snapped at me, right? If an example is if you're the leader of a small team of executives, and everybody's emotions are high, and you're the one snapping at everybody, that's not really good leadership, right? You have to be able to clear the debris in a non-emotional way. And that's really why people get paid, you know. If you're someone that desires to grow more and you want to have more income and more influence, look at the corporate world. You know, when people get put in these positions of high leadership, let's say like a district manager or a regional manager, they're really paying you for conflict. That's what they're really paying for you, your ability to manage conflict at high levels, right? And so you have to have a high emotional IQ, meaning that you have to be able to go and deal with situations and emotional people who don't have that high emotional IQ, and clear that debris in a non-emotional way. If you can learn to do that, my friends, you will be in rare air. And that's something where most people struggle with, because we just react too emotional to everything that we deal with. Leaders always have to be the voice of reason, right? You have to be reasonable, not emotional. Okay? And a great way to do that, think about when somebody snaps at you, if you react in the same energy that someone snapped at you, then you're just as disabled as that person emotionally. And when you have two disabled people emotionally in conflict, nothing ever positively gets resolved. You always have to bring non-emotional solutions to an emotional challenge. And so the matter of fact is that your detachment from the challenges around you is an expression of faith that you can handle it. Learning to detach, right? And if you can detach from the things that you're really struggling with, whether it's this difficult person, because we all deal with difficult personalities sometimes on a day-to-day basis in our places of work or even in our family, right? You have to learn to detach from that, and detaching from those challenges around you is an expression of faith, of whatever that means to you. not here to preach to you or anything, but that you can handle that process. And if you believe you're called to fix it, if you see yourself as wanting to be a leader and like, man, I want to fix this. This is something that I'm just tired of seeing. I want to make this better. If you believe you're called to fix it, then why are you emotional? Are you with me? Why are you overreacting if you're the one that's called to fix it? Because if you believe you can fix it, then why are you screaming? Everyone else could be screaming around you and, bitching and complaining about this or that. But if you believe you can fix it, that means you can take it to a whole other level. And you should be able to. You have to be comfortable with controversy if you're going to be in leadership. Controversy is something that is just normal on a day-to-day basis. So before you take the lead, you have to get comfortable with controversy. Know that you're going to go through challenges, right? And you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you're bumping heads right now with people and having challenges around you, the good news is that you're actually being prepared for the next level of leadership, whatever that means in your life. And that's when you start ruffling the feathers, when you're trying to create a change, you're going to have adversity, right? Not everybody's going to like it. People are going to give you their honest opinion. They're going to criticize you. They might they might shoot arrows at you, but just because they shot arrows at you doesn't mean that they shot you. You have to be comfortable with controversy as a leader. And there's so many people that they reject the call to move forward because they're afraid of stirring the nest, right? They're afraid of confrontation. And if you're going to grow, you want to grow your influence, you want to grow your income, right? You're going to have to get more comfortable with controversy. And that's something that good leaders know how to do. They know how to deal with difficult people and still maintain a positive attitude. That's a skill, right? And that's something that you have to learn how to do. And not only are you going to have controversy from the people on the outside, but you're also going to have controversy from the very people you're trying to help. Sometimes you're going to, sometimes you're trying to do things for even your family and you're going to have conflict there. And that's another, not only are you dealing with controversy at work, but you're dealing with controversy at home. You still have to be the leader. You still have to maintain a positive attitude. You still have to clear the debris in a non-emotional way. Right? You still have to maintain a positive attitude, even though everyone around you is screaming and upset and negative. You cannot react in kind. I hope this makes sense, but it's so important. And the 5 areas of life that we want to focus on that are worthy of mastery. These are the 5 areas. If you focus on these 5 areas, guys, this can have a dramatic impact in your life. Right. And these are the areas of life that I personally want to focus on myself on a day-to-day basis. And quite frankly, a lot of these things are not being taught. Right. I feel that what we're teaching in school today is not really relevant to what's needed to win in our society. And so if that were true, if everybody that had a bachelor's degree from a good university, then everybody would be winning. But I meet so many people who are graduating college right now and they have these great degrees, but they're not getting the positive results that they thought those degrees would give them. So school's never out. You got to focus on other areas of growth. And these 5 areas are what we recommend, what I recommend that you should spend your day-to-day life really working on. Obviously, number 1 is emotional mastery, is really getting a grip of your emotions. Again, most people are possessed by their emotions. And really understanding what triggers you and working on those triggers so that you don't react the way that you've always reacted to the same things. So when you're triggered again, and it will probably happen today, right? If you're triggered, maybe somebody cuts you off, maybe someone snaps at you, and you have a tendency to react in kind, I'm going to challenge you to react differently. And really start studying that behavior, because once you get a handle on your emotions, man, if you can take control of your emotions, you can now use your emotions in such a positive way. And that's where true shift happens. Obviously, physical mastery, right, is, making sure that you're in a good, healthy state. Relationship mastery. What are your relationships with other people? Your personal relationships with your friends, your family, your significant others. your relationships with your coworkers, your business partners, fellow associates. Again, are you attracting people to you, or are you repelling people? Financial mastery, obviously, is how well are you with your money, right? It's a big part of what we teach. And also time mastery. We all, the most successful people, there's, a guy like Jeff Bezos, right, who is the wealthiest guy in the world. He has the same 24 hours a day, just like you and I do, right? Why someone like that has got to that level is because they have adopted a certain way of thinking, behaving, acting, right? Attitude, emotional state that has yielded them a certain amount of results. And so really learning to manage that time so that you can develop yourself is very important. And so these are the 5 areas that we recommend that you work on. So what we're going to get to now is I meet people that, oh, Carlo, I'm so stressed out, right? I think we all deal with a form of stress. And where does stress come from? Where does stress come from? And I like this saying right here: stress does not come from the facts. The stress comes from the meaning that we give the facts. What is the meaning, right? And that meaning that you give the facts, right? Like, you ever been going through something pretty challenging, whatever that is, right? Maybe you're going through a breakup, a divorce, who knows? Something just is like, wow, this is really difficult. An unexpected death in the family. We've all been through some issues or challenges, but have you ever been going through a really deep challenge and somebody around you that is really emotional, probably even more so emotional than you, and you ask what they're going through, and when they tell you what they're going through, you, in your head, you're like, really? Like, that's really setting you off that much? And we want to start comparing our problems. Man, if this person knew what I was going through, and they're emotional about that. And my point is, what's really happening in that equation is that stress does not come from the facts. It comes from the meaning. And the meaning is really based on your emotional IQ or your identity, which is something that we got to work on. And so leads us to the whole purpose of this training, is that what is the single most powerful force that ultimately controls the quality of your life? What is that? And it's the power of choice. That is the power that we exercise on a daily basis, that we all have the power to choose. Every one of us. Right now, we're going to break this down, because when you look at a choice, we all get it. Yeah, I know I have the ability to make a choice, but there's some psychology to a choice. And it's going to be broken down in 3 things, right? So what we're covering, because we can never control the events that happen in our life, but we do have absolute control on what we choose to do with what happens in our life. Every one of us. And it is my sole intention to empower you to really exercise your choices, right? It's your power. And so let's break down the psychology of a choice, because what happens when you make a choice, and big choices start with small ones. So number 1 is you get to choose what to focus on, right? Nobody can make you focus on anything that you don't voluntarily choose to focus on. I mean, I can physically restrain you. I can take you against your will and do physical harm to your body. And if I'm stronger than you, then you have no power there. However, I still can't make you focus on anything that you don't want to be focused on. That is a power that only you have, right? So if you're focused on what's not working in your life right now, there's a high probability that what you'll continue to experience on a day-to-day basis of more of what's not working. Now, if you're focused on what is working in your life, then what you'll continue to experience is more and more of what is working. So whatever you focus on expands. That's very important to understand. You also get to choose what things mean. What does it mean? And we can have positive meanings to things that are happening, or we can have negative reactions and take a whole negative meaning. Which one is true? They're both true. What's wrong is always available, right? What's wrong is always available. But guess what? So is what's right. You have the ability to choose what side of the fence you want to focus on. The positive and negative always coexist. So if I want to be a happy, more fulfilled, more inspired life, and I want to behave and act in ways that are that help me elevate myself to become the best version of myself, then I want to focus on the positive. It doesn't mean that I'm not aware of the negative. It just means what I give most of my mental space to is the positive. That's what I want to focus on, number one. And then I want to focus on what things mean. Here's a great way to look at what things mean. When you're going through stuff, be careful that you don't victimize yourself. And this is where we go wrong, because I know I've definitely done this for so many years of my life, right? I would be victimized, like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? You know, this always happens to me. And you become kind of a victim of circumstances that are beyond your control, and you feel helpless. Here's a great tool that I want to share with you when you're going through something challenging. This is happening for me, not to me. Let me repeat that. This is happening for me, not to me. I want you to practice that when you're going through, when something hits you that is unexpected and it becomes adversity to you, and you're feeling the stress and the anxiety, and you're like, oh my gosh, why is this happening right now? What I want you to take a deep breath and just repeat after me. Okay, this is happening for me, not to me. And when you can put that meaning in place, you will suck the positive aspects of that adversity versus just focusing on the negative. It has been life-changing for me. I hope you can really grasp that, and I highly recommend you to work on that. So what meaning do you get? Again, there's positive meanings and negative ones. They're both true. You have the choice to focus on which one. I'd rather focus on the positive, right? And then obviously number 3 is you get to choose what to do. This is the psychology of a choice, and this is so powerful if you can get it. What are you focused on? What is the meaning that you get of what you're focused on? And what actions are you taking now? That's all that we do every day for every little, whether it's big choices or small choices, this is what's happening. And once you can be conscious of this power of making a choice, man, it can really change the overall quality of your life. You know, so if you have the power to change something that is holding you back and you don't, well, that's a choice and not a limitation. It's a great quote. So let's break it down. So number 1 is, what do you focus on? So I want to give you examples of that, because whatever you focus on, you're going to feel, whether it's true or not, no exceptions. And if you focus on how people just don't care, then you're just going to see evidence all around you on just how people just don't care, because our focus, right, our awareness becomes like a magnifying glass. And if you're focused on the negative things that are happening around the world and around you and in your life, then all you're going to do is continue to experience those things because you're focused on them. Now, if you focus on how everybody has some good inside of them, then at some level you're going to find that as well. And again, this is the beauty of our observation, right? Whatever you're observing, that's going to determine what's taking place. If the observer has a positive mindset, the observer, that person, will typically see positive even in the negative. If you're someone that's wired for negativity, you're never going to see the positive because you're wired to only focus on what's negative. And when you focus on what's negative, it always gives you terrible results because you're only going to experience and perpetuate more of what's negative. This is pretty much law of attraction, but it's, you know, it's not some pie in the sky new age philosophy. It's absolutely true. It's scientifically proven. Whatever you're focused on, it's going to expand. You know, seek and you shall find. You know, I love Henry Ford's quote: "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right." What are you focused on right now in your life in the areas of relationships? So think about, you know, put your relationships into question right now. Are you focused on what is working in those relationships, the good things of those relationships? Or are you focused on what's not working in those relationships? Right? And if you're focused on what is working, chances are you're going to experience more of the positive aspects of what those relationships, the fruit that those relationships bear. If you're focused on what's not working in those relationships, then you're going to experience emotionally more and more of what's not working in those relationships, the negative aspects of that. So as the quote says, focus on problems, you have more problems. Focus on possibilities, you'll have more opportunities. It sounds so simple, right? It's so simple, but it's so powerful, you know. And my point is that so many of us on a collective level, we're living in a prison that we have the keys to, that we could totally just walk out of right now into freedom, into more happiness, more joy, more progress. But we're in bondage because we are hardwired to focus on the negative instead of the positive. Right? So obviously we focus a lot on business, right? Or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So many times people, when they're presented an opportunity, their immediate emotional focus or reaction is, let me tell you why I can't do this or why this won't work versus why I can do this and this will work. Think about it. When you're presented opportunities, are you focused more on the challenges or do you focus more on the opportunities? Right? Number two is the meaning. What is the meaning that we give what we focus on? Right? So number one is what we focus. Number two is the meaning. So I like this scenario here to really break down meaning. Here's a scenario, because we know that the market's going to correct itself again. And when the economy collapses and you have let's say you have two business owners here, and they interpret two entirely different meanings. So the first person, the economy crashed and I'm going to struggle even more now. My business is going to fail and I'm going to go broke. And then you have the second person, same situation. They're a business owner. The economy collapsed and they associate a whole different meaning. So they're focused on, hey, you know what? I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to make changes. Right? I'm going to get creative and take advantage of this opportunity. And I'm going to smoke everyone that is thinking Chicken Little. Right? So they're focused on a completely different way. They're focused on the positive instead of the negative, like number one was. The meaning that they took from the economy crashing is that they're going to get more creative. And so the action that they take is they actually believe that they're going to have more advantages than someone, because they realize everyone else is going to be, in a failure mindset. I love this type of thinking because it's true. The meaning that you give anything will determine the next physical action you take without fail, every time. And so I'm trying to get you to really think of positive, associate the positive to everything right now. And so if I could ask you right now, what negative things are really taking place in your life that just repeat themselves? I mean, they're stuck on repeat. Let's break down the choice. What are you focused on? What are you focused on that continues to make that negative thing repeat itself over and over again in your life? What is the meaning that you take from it? Are you just focused on the negative and that's why it continues to just perpetuate negativity? And what actions are you taking or not taking that continue to put that negative thing on repeat? If you can apply the psychology of a choice to this, man, some great things can happen. So you see, whether something is the end or the beginning is totally up to you. That's based on our focus and our choice and our meaning and the actions that we take. Don't you act differently in the beginning of a relationship than at the end? I think we've all been in, if you've been around life for a while, we've all been in relationships with people, whether intimate or personal, that we had the honeymoon stage, the puppy dog stage, and eventually, they left. But what happened, man? Didn't you act differently in the beginning of that relationship than at the end? So what changed? The meaning. The meaning changed. In the beginning of a relationship, when your partner says, hey, can you throw out the trash? Oh, I will gladly throw out the trash. Throw out the trash, la, la, la. And then, 6 months later, a year later, when they say, hey, can you throw out the trash? You're like, you throw out your trash. Well, what changed? Obviously, the meaning changed, right? If you would behave at the end of a relationship like you did in the beginning of a relationship, there probably won't be an end. So what changes? The meaning change. But once you decide, then, and only then does it become true for you. Number 3 is, what do we do with what we focus on and give meaning to? Okay. So focus plus meaning equals action. That means get off your ass and go get it, right? We call it the law of Goya, right? The law of Goya is get off your ass, right? If you want a new life or new experiences, then you have to make new choices, period. If you don't like your career, your business, your body, then change it, right? If you don't like your relationship, then change you first before you change it. Because if you change it, you're only going to end up bringing you to the next one. This is a big thing with relationships. Where I know people in my life, friends that are like serial daters, man. I have a friend that's he's addicted to the falling in love stage of relationships. He loves that puppy dog stage, you know, when it's all fresh and clean, and those first few months, you know, it's like, you know, but as soon as things get real and we start dealing with real issues, he tends to lose interest and he ends up moving on from that relationship and getting into the next one. And it's just like a cycle. I'm like, do you see what's happening here, dude? Every time you get in this, you get through this honeymoon stage, and as soon as things get real and challenge and real challenge hits and adversity hits, it's just too much, and you break it off and you go on to the next one. But you just end up bringing you to the next one. So you got to really work on yourself. And again, this is the 3 things of a choice, right? This is the greatest secret ever, is that we all have choice. And when you look at choice, again, it's 3 things that we want to focus on. Number 1, what are you focused on? Number 2, what does it mean? And number 3, what are you going to do about it? That's what this is about. So that's the greatest secret ever, guys, right? I hope you can really, it sounds so simple, but it's not, because if it's so simple, more people would be conscious of this. And once I became conscious of this, I'll be honest, my whole life changed. My identity shifted. I felt very empowered that I can go out there and do these things. So let me look at you here for a second. There I am. So I appreciate you sharing this time with me here. We're about 43 minutes in. And again, the greatest secret ever is we have the power of choice. Every single one of us, you as well. There's no one that can take that power away from you. Now that you realize that power of choice, I'm going to ask you those 3 things. Look at the choices and break it down in 3 aspects. What are you focused on? Are you focused on the positive or the negative? And whatever you're focused on, you're going to feel. And if you're trying to have more positive results, then you have to start wiring your mind to start focusing on the positive aspects of all those things that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And now that you're focused on the right things, what is the meaning that you take from it? Can you take the positive from a negative situation? The answer is yes. And one of the tools I want to share with you is, hey, this is happening for me, not to me. Okay? And the number 3 is, what are you going to do? What are you focused on? What does it mean? What are you going to do? Understand that that's your personal power. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody. Only you can do that. Right? And once you feel empowered and you have that information with you, it'll give you amazing positive results out there on your day-to-day life. So thank you so much. Please feel free to leave any feedback. Those are my girls back there. Right, if you hear them, we're getting ready here to go to poolside on 4th of July. I appreciate your time. I hope you got a ton of value. And let me know how this could be better, right? If this could be longer. Be honest with me, brutally honest. I want to make this, you know, more and more positive for people so that we can influence more positive change out there. Love you guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your 4th.